Today I am talking about symbols again, but this time the curious little glyphs we use for the zodiac signs and planets in astrology. They're like cosmic hieroglyphs, ancient spiritual diagrams designed to encode truths about our place in the universe. Some of these symbols trace back thousands of years, others were created just a few centuries ago. But each one, whether born in ancient temples or modern observatories, tells a story. So let's explore that story. The zodiac signs, those 12 30-degree slices of the sky, have been around for thousands of years. The Babylonians divided the sky this way as early as 500 BCE, and the Greeks later built upon it with myth, philosophy, and geometry. Now, the symbols we use today, the glyphs, likely evolved from ancient pictographs, astrological manuscripts, and alchemical traditions over centuries. Different cultures and eras left their mark, and it wasn't until the medieval and Renaissance periods that the symbols started to become standardized, partly because they needed to be easy to write and reproduce in books. Still, many of these glyphs were designed, or at least interpreted, to express something about the sign's inner nature. So Gemini, for example, its symbol looks like the Roman numeral 2, but in esoteric traditions, some say it indicates the two pillars at the entrance of a temple of the god, or the twin gateways between spirit and form, conscious and unconscious. It is also associated with the twins Castor and Pollux from Greek mythology, so it reflects mirrored identity or duality. Cancer's glyph resembles a sideways 69, thought to represent the claws of a crab, but symbolically it is seen by some as the germ of the soul and body, the spiritual and physical entwined. Historically, it was probably meant to reflect the creature itself. Now, Libra's glyph, a curved line over a horizontal bar, suggests a setting sun or a balanced scale. And Libra does represent balance, justice, harmony, so this symbol captures that symmetry. Now, the scales themselves are drawn from the Roman symbolism, as Libra was linked to Astrea, the goddess of justice. Sagittarius glyph, the arrow pointing up or archer, suggests outgoing energy, movement, aim. It is pointing to higher ground, symbolizing aspiration, momentum, and the quest for truth. Now, historically, this represents the arrow of the centaur archer, a reference to the mythological figure Chiron or the constellation itself. It is associated with truth-seeking and momentum, but the symbol's core meaning is really about the archer's shot. And then there's Aquarius, the water bearer. Its glyph, twin wavy lines, can be traced, while probably not connected, to ancient Egyptian water symbols, where zigzag lines represented water or flow. In this case, they could symbolize communication, conveyance, the transmission of life and knowledge, all of which is usually attributed to Aquarius. It is weird that the name and symbol emphasize water and still Aquarius is an air sign. Now, Capricorn's glyph is a bit more complex. It combines a V shape with a looping tail, which some interpret as a stylized goatfish, a creature from Babylonian mythology. Now, Capricorn was associated with the god Enki, who had a body of a goat and a tail of a fish, and it symbolized wisdom emerging from the depths. Pisces glyph shows two crescent shapes facing opposite directions, joined by a line. Now, of course, this is meant to represent two fish swimming in opposite directions, tied together, and the symbol goes way back to Greek and earlier Mesopotamian traditions, where the fish symbolize spiritual intuition, duality, and the tension between the material and immaterial. Now, Aries and Taurus glyphs are more straightforward, so there is not much to say about these. Leo glyph is a hollow circle with a long, curvy tail at the end, representing a mane and a tail of a lion. Now, Leo constellation is one of the oldest recognized constellations. Babylonians considered it one of their first constellations and thought of its brightest star, Regulus, as the king's star. Still, not every symbol is immediately obvious. Some, like Scorpio or Virgo, feature curved lines or coils, which some traditions interpret as snakes, symbols of transformation, cycles, and energy in motion. Now, this serpentine symbolism is especially strong in Hindu astrology, where the serpent represents cycles of evolution and motion, like the moon's orbit, planetary pause, and karmic loops. Now, from that view, each zodiac sign is a phase of the great serpent, a particular attitude or posture of cosmic energy. Before we move to the planets, I want to mention a really interesting concept, the three levels of symbols. In esoteric teachings, symbols can be divided into three categories. Mathematical symbols, these are abstract, precise, and this is where most planetary glyphs belong. They're built from circles, crosses, crescents. It is a geometrical language that points beyond words. Then natural symbols, and these come from the physical world, so animals, elements, and plants, like Leo as the lion or Taurus as the bull. And astral or visionary symbols disappear in dreams, meditations, or sacred art. They're strong but personal, subjective, and hard to verify. Now, some glyphs blend all three, but the mathematical ones, especially the planetary glyphs, are fascinating because they encode entire cosmologies in just a few strokes. So planets. In traditional astrology, there are 7 classical planets: the Sun, Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn, all visible to the naked eye. Their glyphs are built from 3 core shapes: the circle, representing spirit, unity, wholeness, and the divine; the crescent, representing soul, the receptive, reflective part of being; and the cross, representing matter, the physical world, structure, and limitation. A few examples. Venus, a circle above a cross, spirit ruling matter, a symbol of love, beauty, harmony, so spirit manifesting in form. Mars, a circle with an arrow pointing outward, so spirit projected into action, so drive, willpower, even aggression. It reminds me of those moments when you just have to push forward no matter what. Now Mercury wears a crescent on top, then a circle, then a cross, so soul, spirit, and matter all integrated. Fitting for the cosmic messenger, the planet of connection between realms, bridging worlds and ideas. The Sun, a simple circle with a dot in the center, so the source, the self, radiating from within. The Moon, just the crescent, the soul alone, so reflective, fluid, and feminine. Saturn, a cross above a crescent, so matter pressing down on the soul, time, limitation, and karma. And Jupiter, the reverse, a crescent lifting above the cross, the soul lifting matter, meaning growth and expansion. It gives hope, like the promise of something bigger beyond the struggle. So each glyph tells a philosophical story. It's not just a planetary identity. Now, some esoteric astrologers even map them onto stages of spiritual evolution. When all 3 elements are present, you see a full integration of being. When just one appears, you see a kind of seed, a pure expression either of spirit or soul or matter. Now, Earth has a glyph too, a cross within a circle, representing the intersection of matter and spirit, grounded in experience. So the classical world knew only the visible planets, but as we know, in the last few centuries, science has extended our reach. So Uranus was discovered in 1781, Neptune in 1846, and Pluto in 1930. And with each came the need for new symbols. But by then, astronomy and astrology had parted ways. The symbols for these planets weren't always rooted in esoteric tradition. Some were practical or commemorative. So Uranus has multiple glyphs. One version includes an H for William Herschel, its discoverer. Another looks like a mix of iron and gold symbols, a nod to platinum, a newly discovered metal at the time. All point to innovation, disruption, and change. Now Neptune more poetically got a trident, suitable for the god of the sea. It lacks layered metaphysics, but visually and mythologically it works. Now Pluto's common older glyph is a P over an L, standing for Pluto and Percival Lowell, who predicted its existence. But a newer version, and the one that is used today, is a circle rising from a crescent or a cross representing spirit, soul, and matter, rebirth through descent, transformation, death, and renewal. And while these modern symbols may lack ancient roots, over time they've gained archetypal power. Myth has a way of catching up. Another intriguing interpretation of the zodiac, or maybe it's better described as a circle of 12 symbolic stages, appears in the Ajanta caves of India, in a mural painted on the veranda of Cave 17. Now, though nicknamed the zodiac, scholars suggest it does not represent astrology, but a Buddhist vision called the 12 Nidanas, the links in the chain of causality or dependent origination. So this ancient fresco does not map star signs to personality traits, but more the 12 symbolic steps that bind beings to the cycle of rebirth. The imagery is quite fragmented, but still vivid enough. One of the first images is a blind camel leading the way, which scholars interpret as a symbol of avidya, or ignorance, the very first link in the chain. Now, I have to admit, the idea of a blind camel as a symbol for ignorance isn't something you see everywhere in Buddhist art or texts. It's a bit unusual compared to other more common symbols like snakes or pigs. But in this mural, the blind camel feels like a visual metaphor. I guess one can imagine this burdened, unseeing animal leading the way, unaware of where it is going. It kind of captures that sense of being trapped in ignorance, blindly moving through the cycle of existence. So while it might not be a classic symbol, it is a unique image that got me thinking about how different cultures and artists find different ways to represent these deep ideas. Next, there is a potter shaping wet clay, which represents karma taking form. Now, I like this one because it's such a tactile image, like our actions are the hands molding who we become, shaping our destiny bit by bit. Then a restless monkey appears, curious and active, showing the arising of consciousness. Honestly, the monkey mind is something I think we can all relate to. Well, at least I can, that buzzing, jumping attention that's never quite still. Elsewhere, you see a man and woman embracing, or a plow digging into the earth, all symbols of sensation and attachment and the ongoing turning of the wheel of becoming. It shows how connection and desire pull us into the flow of life, for better or worse. Now, though these scenes do not directly name zodiac signs like Aries or Taurus, in later interpretations, I think mostly in Tibetan traditions, people began to overlay astrological meaning onto this symbolic cycle. So Aries becomes the blind impulse of ignorance, Taurus is the potter shaping karma, Gemini the ever-curious monkey, mind of early awareness, Cancer the first stirring of life in form, Leo the shaping of identity, name taking form, a face, Virgo, the touch and toil, the world sensed and grasped. Libra, awakening to light, the first glimpse of truth. And the cycle moves on. Scorpio reflects craving and thirsting for existence. Sagittarius brings the harvest, karma coming back around. Capricorn symbolizes union and form, the structure of self. Aquarius introduces the child, renewal, rebirth. And Pisces, the final rite, a body carried to cremation, an end, and a possible return. We live in a modern world of data, algorithms, space probes, where we've mapped galaxies and simulated the birth of the universe. But these planetary and zodiac glyphs, I like to think of them as keys or pieces of a living symbolic language, something people have been shaping and reshaping for ages to say who we are, where we live, and how we see the universe. Even the newer symbols now carry archetypal meaning. They have begun to hold their own weight. All of them become vessels for stories, and the stories change us. Now, you don't have to believe in astrology to appreciate the elegance of these glyphs. They're a poetry in line and curve, a memory of a time when the sky was something we belonged to. Myth catches up, meaning gathers around form, and the real power of a symbol, it waits for us to grow into it. And this is it for today. A bit shorter, but informative, I think. So thank you for being here, and remember, the universe speaks above, your soul reflects below. Listen to both. Bye.